Ave Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. When Jesus and his disciples arrived at Bethsaida, people brought to him a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. Putting spittle on his eyes, he laid his hand on the man and asked, "Do you see anything?" Looking up, the man replied, "I see people looking like trees and walking." Then he laid hands on the man's eyes a second time, and he saw clearly. His sight was restored, and he could see everything distinctly. Then he sent him home and said, "Do not even go into the village." The Gospel of the Lord. What a beautiful passage in this Gospel of how Jesus is personally desiring to be involved with us, to make personal, tactile contact. And it begins by these people who brought to him a blind man and begged him to touch him. These are what James describes as doers of the word and not mere hearers. They make a decision to get involved with somebody who's in need. And I was thinking on this, as in my own personal life of faith, how vital it has been for people to be in my life to help me along the way and sometimes see clearly when I don't see myself. Perhaps none of you have experienced that, but sometimes we need help. We need somebody to help us see with clarity, someone who knows the gospel better than we do. A confessor, a trusted friend, even parents sometimes. He took the blind man by the hand. He grabs him by the hand, and he led him outside of the village, isolating him, a place of privacy. It's like allowing Jesus to lead us by the hand outside of the village and all the noise in times of prayer. Today we're going to have Eucharistic adoration all day. People are going to be taken by the hand and led here to have time alone and quiet with Jesus. Not a bad idea for anybody to stop in here. He gets even more personal with this guy. At first, when I read this, the spittle thing, one of the things that came to my mind, however, is something I've seen many times, mostly with mothers. The baby's got a stain, food on the cheek or around the lips, lick the thumb, wipe it off. Yes. But what's revealed here is there's this parental intimacy that's coming through with Jesus. Jesus is that personal with this guy. He leaves a trace of himself on this man. That's another interesting characteristic of this. Okay, I can chemically thinking, Jesus' DNA got absorbed right into the skin. I guess that happens at baptism, doesn't it? I see people walking like trees, he says, after Jesus touches him. And this is because faith, we grow in faith in stages. We don't always see clearly, do we? And so we grow in faith in stages. But one of the places where we start to grow in faith is not only doctrinally, but when Jesus touches us, we begin to see people in a different way. We live in a culture where people are seen in a utilitarian fashion. We have a tendency to use each other instead of love each other. We have a tendency to make friends who can be friends of opportunity for us, but never become really friends. And so, St. James reminds us, we're no longer looking at people. We're looking at someone who's suffering as an orphan or a widow. A student who needs help. A teacher at her wit's end who needs a prayer or perhaps needs another teacher to help her. A person who is alive and kicking in the womb instead of a baby to be discarded. An elderly person who's in the hospital dying, and they're seen as someone who is waiting for God. How about the curmudgeon who needs somebody to humor him? And now, with our eyes open, no longer blind, we can see clearly and begin to see Jesus in each other. You're Jesus, and Jesus is sitting next to you. We are all God's dear children in need of healing, especially healing of the sight of one another in the world.
Regina Celi, let our